Hello all, welcome to my lecture on direct memory access, which comes under module 3. We have been discussing about various synchronization techniques, and in the past two lectures we discussed program controlled IO and interrupts. In this lecture we are going to discuss about direct memory access, that is DMA. As the name implies, it's the direct access of memory without the continuous intervention of processor. It is used to transfer large amount of data at high speed. Actually, it's a special control unit to allow transfer of a block of data directly between an external device and main memory without continuous intervention by the processor. For doing this task, we need DMA controller. What is actually a DMA controller? It is a control unit that is part of IO interface which perform the DMA transfer. IO interface we have discussed in the introduction part. So DMA controller is as an DMA controller is an important part of that IO interface, and it performs the functions that would normally be carried out by the processor when accessing the main memory. So we can say that this DMA controller is a substitute to the processor in the case of DMA transfer. For each word transferred, it provides the memory address and all the bus signals that control data transfer. So for data transfer, we need the memory address, starting address of the word, and then the number of words to be transferred, then the direction of transfer, that means whether it is a read operation or a write operation. All this information is given by the DMA controller. Then another function is that it increments the memory address for successive words and keep track of number of transfers. Then its operation is under the control of a program executed by the processor. Here we say that we don't have, or the DMA transfer has no continuous intervention by the processor, but at the same time it is controlled by a program that is directly executed by this processor. To transfer a block of data, the first step is the processor sends the starting address, the number of words in the block, and the direction of transfer to the DMA controller. So in order to initiate the DMA transfer, this basic information, that means the starting address, then the number of words to be transferred, then the direction, that is whether it is a read operation or write operation, all these information is need to be transferred to the DMA controller, and it is done by the processor. Then the DMA controller proceeds to perform the requested operation, that means the DMA transfer. When the entire block has been transferred, the controller informs the processor by raising an interrupt signal. That means after this operation has completed, the DMA controller need to let the processor know that the process has completed. So it uses the interrupt. Then while a DMA transfer is taking place, the program that requested the transfer cannot continue. The processor can be used to execute another program. So in the case of a DMA transfer, the processor need not wait for the transfer operation to complete. It can do another task, but the condition is that the process or the program that requested the DMA transfer cannot continue. It should be suspended. Instead, the processor can do another task which is independent of this DMA transfer. After the DMA transfer is completed, the processor can return to the program that requested the transfer. Next is the DMA controller register. What are the registers that are involved in this DMA transfers? We have three important registers. One is the starting address register, which stores the starting address. Then the word count register that stores the number of words to be transferred, and the status and control register, which records the status and control information. In this register, we have four important flags or bits. One is read or write bit. This bit is set to 1 if the DMA transfer is a read operation, and it is set to 0 if it is a write operation. Then another bit is the done bit. It is set to 1 when the DMA controller has completed this current transfer of data and it is ready for, and if it is ready for another transfer, then it will set this done bit to 1. Then IE, that is interrupt enable bit. It is if it is set to 1, this DMA controller can initiate an interrupt request to let the processor know that the process or the transfer has completed, and after that it will set this IRQ interrupt request bit to 1. This is all about this DMA controller registers, the three important registers associated with DMA transfer and their function. Next is the use of DMA controllers in a computer system. In this diagram, you can see a processor, a main memory, then disk or DMA controller, which controls two different disks, and the system bus is connected to the network interface through DMA controller and a printer, then a keyboard. This DMA controller connects a high-speed network to the computer bus. It is clear from this diagram, that is, the network interface is connected to the system bus through DMA controller. The disk controller, which controls two disks, also has DMA capability. Here you can see a disk controller controls two different disks, and it is also having a DMA capability. It can perform two independent DMA operations as if each disk had its own DMA controller. Here you can see that both the disks share a common DMA controller, but here this DMA controller can perform two independent DMA operations and as if each disk had its own DMA controller. But the truth is that these two disks share a common DMA controller. Okay. To transfer a block of data from main memory to one of the disk. Okay, next, if we need to transfer a block of data from main memory to one of this disk, first a program writes the address and word count information into the registers of the corresponding channel of disk controller. Okay. In order to initiate this process, first we need to set the status of all the three registers associated with this DMA controller. That means the starting address register, then word count register, then status and control register. Okay, so the starting address of this block of data is stored into the starting address register, then the number of words into the word count register corresponding to the channel of the disk controller. Next, the DMA controller proceeds to implement the specified operation. That means the read or write operation. As the starting address and number of words are available, it can proceed to do the action. When the DMA transfer is completed, it sets the done bit in the status and control register. I already told about the function of this done bit. That means after completing a block transfer, the DMA controller set this done bit to 1 if it is ready for another block transfer. Then if the IE bit is set, that means interrupt enable bit is set, the controller sends an interrupt request to the processor and set the IRQ bit. This step is done by the DMA controller to let the processor know that the process has been completed. Okay. The status registers can also used to record information like whether the transfer took place correctly or errors occurred. In the status and control register, we have discussed only about these con- uh, four flags. It's a 32-bit register, so the rest 28 bits can be used for other purposes also. One such example is that it can also be used to record information like whether the transfer took place correctly or errors occurred. Likewise, the requests by DMA devices for using bus are always given higher priority than processor request. Then some devices with DMA devices with top priority are disk, high speed network interface, graphic display device, etc. Normally, the bus cycles are associated with this processor. In the case of DMA transfer, this DMA controller uses the bus cycles of this processor. So, the DMA controller can set to steal memory cycles from the processor, and this process can be called as cycle stealing. Then the DMA controller may be given exclusive access to the main memory to transfer block of memory data without any interruption. That means here a block of data is transferred from memory to the input output device without interruption of the processor. Hence, it is said to be in block or burst mode. Now, another feature of DMA controller is that it associates a data storage buffer to it. What is the purpose of this data storage buffer? It can be explained like this. In the case of a network interface, we need to transfer data from memory to this network. Instead of transferring this data from memory to the network, this DMA controller transfers a block of data from memory to the data storage buffer associated with it. Then the data can be transferred to the network from this storage buffer with the speed of network. This is the application of this data storage buffer. Now, there is a chance for a conflict if both the processor and a DMA controller or two DMA controllers try to use the bus at the same time to access the main memory. In that case, a solution to this problem is the arbitration procedure. Bus arbitration. Bus arbitration means it's a process of choosing a device to hand over this bus control. The device that is allowed to initiate data transfers on the bus at any given time can be called as bus master. That means the device which holds the control of bus. So a bus arbitration process is the selection of this bus master. The bus arbitration can be explained as the process by which the next device to become the bus master is selected and the bus mastership is transferred to it. It's actually the process of bus arbitration. This selection process is based on a priority system, and we have two important techniques or two important approaches for doing bus arbitration. One is centralized approach and another is distributed approach. Centralized arbitration technique uses a single bus arbiter for performing this arbitration process. The bus arbiter may be the processor or a separate unit connected to the bus. This can be explained by this block diagram. Here you can see a processor, a DMA controller 1, DMA controller 2. These two devices, DMA controllers, are connected to bus request line, a common bus request line. If any device need to request a bus control, then it will raise the bus request line. On receiving this bus request signal, the processor issues a bus grant signal to the first device connected to it. That means the device that is electrically nearer to that processor. The first device receives this bus grant signal, and if that device has a pending bus request, then it will accept that bus grant signal and it will issue the bus busy signal to let other device know that the bus is busy and the next bus master is DMA controller 1. And if this device DMA controller 1 doesn't need a bus service or the control of bus, it will simply transfer this bus grant signal to the next device and so on. This is the timing diagram corresponding to this centralized arbitration process. Here you can see that this process is initiated by issuing a bus request signal. It is an active low signal, so the signal is like this. Now the context is that DMA controller 1 doesn't have any request for the bus, so it simply transfers this bus grant signal to the DMA controller 2. DMA controller 2 acquires that bus grant signal and issues the bus busy signal and does the DMA transfer operation. It is the context. So on receiving this bus request signal, the processor issues this bus grant signal 1. So it is set to high. Then it is received by this DMA controller 1 as it has no service, as it has no not requested any bus service. It will simply transfer this bus grant signal to the next device, that means BG2. So it is set to high. Until this state, the bus master was the processor. On receiving this bus grant signals 2, the DMA controller 2 acquires the control and it will wait for this bus busy signal to get deactivated. That means it will wait for this signal. Then it will activate the signal and start the DMA transfer operation. So for this particular time duration, the bus master will be DMA controller 2, and after that again a bus busy signal, the bus busy signal get deactivated and the control will be given back to processor. This is the timing diagram. Now the second technique is distributed arbitration. It is, as the name implies, the process is a distributed one. All devices waiting to use the bus have equal responsibility in carrying out the arbitration process. That means all the devices waiting to use the bus participate in this process without the use of a central arbiter. Here, each of the device on the bus is assigned a 4-bit ID number, and any device can initiate a bus request by signaling this start arbitration line and sending its ID number into this arbitration lines from ARB0 to ARB3. Here, for example, we have two devices, device A and device B. Device A is having ID number 5 and device B is having ID number 6. This diagram shows only half portion of the complete diagram or complete circuit. This diagram is having, so this is the interface circuit for device A. So the complete diagram have another half with interface diagram or interface circuit for device B. This is the interface circuit for device A. This diagram has a left part, that means this area. It corresponds to the device A's status. That means one of the line is connected to the start arbitration line. That means to initiate a bus request. Then it has 4 other lines which correspond to the binary bits of its ID number. The ID number of device A is 5. So its binary is 0101. These bits are connected to the arbitration line ARB0 to ARB3. This is the left part. Similarly, device B will have its corresponding binary bits connected to this same arbitration line ARB0 to ARB3. That means its ID number is 6, so its binary is 0110. This 0110 will be connected to arbitration line 0 to 3. So in device B's interface circuit, you will have these lines like this. Okay, 0110 in this place. Each of the arbitration lines will have, in our example, 2 bits connected to it. The next step is this arbitration line takes the logical OR of all the bits connected to that line. In our example, we have 2 bits connected to each of the arbitration line. So it will take the logical OR of these 2 bits. So A's code is 5. So it is 0101. B's code is 60110. Now each of the arbitration line take logical OR of these two bits. So we will get logical OR 0111 as the result. That means it corresponds to the pattern generated by this circuit. You can see here. This is the pattern 0111. This pattern is created by the arbitration line based on the logical OR of bits connected to it. Okay. Now, next step is each of the device compares its ID number with this pattern. Means its bit positions are compared with the bit positions of this pattern. For example, this pattern is compared with device A's ID number 0101. It will check for any difference. Okay, for the first bit there is no change. There is no difference. For the second bit also there is no difference. And the third bit, the pattern bit is 1 and the device bit is 0. So here is a difference. If there is any difference, it will set that bit to 0, and also all the bits, lower order bits after this bit also set to 0. Here we have only one lower order bit. It is also set to 0. So we will get the new code corresponding to A as 0100. So A's new code is 0100. With this change in ID corresponding to A, the pattern bits will also change, because this pattern is generated by taking the logical OR of ID numbers of device A and B. Here the ID number of A is changed, hence there will be a change to the pattern also. So we need to recalculate the pattern. So the new code corresponding to A is 0100. B's code is not changed, hence it is 0110. Now take the logical OR, you will get 0110 as the result. 0110 as the result, its corresponding decimal is 6. This implies that the device with ID 6 has won this process and it is chosen as the next bus master. The device with ID number 6 is device B. So device B has won this process and it is chosen as the next bus master. You can repeat this process with ID number of B also. You will get the same result. So from this calculation, it is observed that the device with highest ID number will always win this process and become the new bus master. This is all about this distributor arbitration approach, and the advantage of this technique is that it is highly reliable since it is independent of any device. Okay, so in today's lecture, we have discussed about direct memory access. What is it and how is it? Then different approaches used in it, that means centralized and distributed. Then its advantages also. Thank you.